Hello, everyone. I'm really happy to be connecting with you today. You might hear a little bit of a southern twang in my voice, and that's because I've been channeling this guy named Clyde, who is from I believe, the 60s, and he's already passed, but as we know, time doesn't exist. And he's a really interesting guy, and I've been connecting with him a lot and actually channeling him. So he's been with me, very present in my vibratory field for the last 4 days, officially now. So you might hear a little bit of a southern accent. I might bring him through at some point. I've been doing it with my friends. It's been a lot of fun. And he sits on his porch all day, drinks beer, doesn't meditate conventionally like I do, and he gazes at the stars at night. And he's very, very wise. I wouldn't say that he connects with ETs, but that he is an existentialist. He's always had an interest in understanding and uncovering the secrets of the universe. So he questions his thoughts a lot, and he's constantly uncovering more and more and more mysteries about the universe. I can feel him right now. Anyways, it's been really fun to channel him. I may do a Q&A with him at some point. Now, keep in mind, my preference is to connect with higher dimensional beings like the Nine, like the Pleiadians and so forth. So I actually have to drop my vibration a notch to connect with him, because he may not have all of the multidimensional understandings that I do, but something about his voice is so soothing. Should I just do it now? All right, I'll bring him in. Hello, everyone. This is Claude. I'm really grateful to Phil for lending me this opportunity to connect with you all, because I live in a time and space where we didn't have these platforms. So it's been really wonderful to connect with Phil the last 4 days. And Phil is a little skeptical. He doesn't really like this idea, but he's open to it because he's had a fascination with channeling for a long time. So I'll be bringing in information about your overall energy. Phil calls it the vibrational frequency, but he likes some of my lingo, and he also likes the way I sound. He thinks my voice is like butter, it's soothing. And I tend to be a practical guy, you see. I just kind of get to the point with people, but I do it in a loving way, so people have always been responsive to me. I sit around, I drink my beers. I'm not a fat guy, I'm a skinny guy. And I like to contemplate. I like to ask questions about the universe. Y'all are lucky. Y'all have the Wi-Fi right now. We didn't have that back then. So to be able to reach y'all from the 60s is quite fascinating, I have to say. So I'm going to return you back to Phil, because he's still not comfortable with this idea, you see. He thinks it's a little strange. Now, although he does channel higher dimensional beings, he refers to them as the White Wing Collective Consciousness of Nine, and I hope to learn about them some more as well. But he usually just translates for them. He doesn't do this direct channeling, but he enjoys channeling me because it's easier for him to drop a notch, if you will, and to connect with me. So I'll be talking to you guys a little more about the overall energy that you dish out, like your satellite dish network. You can receive or you can transmit, and I'll be bringing more information about that. So I'll pass you back over to Phil. So that's Clyde. I can't believe you guys, this is so weird. But anyways, I'm a strong believer that we have to remain curious, and we have to keep exploring and trying different things, because then we kind of diversify our quote-unquote portfolio. And I think it makes it fun because, in a sense, we're all here pretending, and we're all playing different roles. And if you think about actors, that's really what they're doing, essentially, is they're bringing through different energies, and they're completely embodying that frequency, because it is a frequency. Like when I connect with Clyde, he feels very dense, but it's not a dense where he's not elevated. He's very elevated. You can think of the indigenous. They were very connected to the earth. So their energy was more solid, if that makes sense. And my energy tends to be a little more ethereal. So I like to connect to higher planes of existence. And I always feel like there's like birds rotating around my head. Like it's like an energy that's orbiting around my head, and it's always above me. Now I'm still anchored into the ground as Phil, but when I'm channeling the nine, I should say I'm interpreting, because I'm not really going into a trance like I just did. I'm kind of remaining open to the whatever light codes they're bringing in, and then I decode them. So I'm more of a translator for the nine, and they bring through a lot of information around multidimensional perspective and all of this. But when I connect with Clyde, he has a very dense energy. He doesn't meditate like I do, so I'm constantly connecting to more of that celestial energy. He gets information from just sitting on his porch. So it's a very different energy, you see. But that doesn't mean he can't crack the universe through that. Does that make sense to you guys? Like, you can truly think of your body or the frequencies that you blend together to kind of create this persona of yours. It creates like a geometric, like a harmonic or a sacred geometry pattern of harmony. And then through that geometrical pattern, think of it as a container. So this container can have a triangle as a shape, or it can be a rectangle, or it can be a cube. It can be all these different things. And then the universe filters into that. And then you can understand the universe through the container that you've created. So some of us gravitate to more of the star beings, and to some of us connect more to the earth, like pulling up energy from the earth. But we can all study the universe. That's why I'm always very clear with everyone that there is no one way to the truth. There are millions of ways. And I feel like the universe has been so generous with us in offering us these options as to how we can elevate and expand as souls. It doesn't have to be one way. So this is going to be an energy update, and there's been a lot streaming in lately, and I'm not quite sure where we're going to take this, but I do have a gist of where we're going to go with this. The first thing is there's been a lot of earthquakes in LA and other places as well, and aftershock effects and all of this. And we have to remember that whether or not they're artificial or they're natural, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter, because at the end of the day, you have the power to program your own vibratory field. Or you can say that you can change the factory settings within your phone or within your biological computer. Now, what does that mean exactly? Well, when I watch Netflix at night, I will set an intention beforehand. And I will say, angels, spirit guides. It's very much like programming a remote controller to receive the energy of your choice. So when I watch Netflix, I'm not just on autopilot, like, ooh, let's watch TV, like a lot of people do that, which is fine. But I tend to program my field in such a way where I will receive the exact energies that I want to receive. So I'll say, spirit guides or angels, I ask that you heal my body as I watch this show. And what we tend to do as a human race is we will say, TV is bad for you, right? Especially in the spiritual community. They're constantly pumping out frequency or programming that then gets firmly installed in you, which is true from one viewpoint. So we don't want to negate any perspective. But we also want to understand that when you're not operating within a dualistic mindset anymore, within that third dimensional framework, you really do get to call the shots. You become the creator of your own reality. And we haven't even begun to scratch the surface as to what that entails. We haven't even begun. For me, I can actually work with color now. I can bring in different rays of light, and I can see them with my third eye as I'm watching television, or as I'm meditating, or as I'm talking with a friend. So the guides have been emphasizing that it really boils down to what and how you choose to program your vibrational field as the maker of your reality, to receive the energies that can further advance you on your path. And sometimes we polarize and we will say things like, oh, these earthquakes are artificial, or oh, your television is bad for you, or this kind of food is bad for you. But I've put this to the test because I consider myself to be like Inspector Gadget of spirituality. Someone once called me Willy Wonka of spirituality, which I kind of thought that was cool. But I have played with this, and what I've come to the conclusion of, because nothing can really be concluded, but my own conclusions that I've drawn is that it really comes down to the beliefs that you have. Your beliefs are the blueprint that hold your reality in place. And those beliefs are pliable. You can always change them anytime you want. You're never bound to these beliefs. But if you believe that by eating a donut, you can be infused with the highest love and the highest light, then that will happen. It's when we doubt that we obstruct our own field. When we don't believe that we can glow by eating a donut, that we end up putting on weight. I eat fries all the time, sweet potato fries. I eat all kinds of stuff. I would say that my diet is very anti, or I should say the opposite of what most of the spiritual community does. Because I've learned that I'm responsible for generating thoughts, beliefs, emotions, and my reality has no choice but to conform to that, you see? So whatever it is that you do, remember that we want to operate within neutrality. But we also want to agree with the other concepts that people hold that are more dualistic, that are more polarized. So if someone says to you, you need to eat this and this and this and that to raise your vibration, I would never disagree with them. Because if that's the belief that they're holding, that if they eat clean, if they eat well, if they eat organic, if they eat raw, if they eat live, if they eat vegan, whatever it is that they eat, if they believe that, well, of course, they're going to yield that result. Of course, because they are believing it without an ounce of doubt. Does that make sense to you guys? All right. So going back to whether or not these earthquakes are real or man-made, it really doesn't matter, because when the earth shakes, you get to program your field and decide what that looks like for you. You get to decide, what do I want to gain from this? Because everything that's happening to us is a transmission. But it's all about how we regard it, what your perception about it is. How do you perceive things? And how you perceive will determine how you receive. I just came up with that now. How you perceive will determine how you receive, and what you receive, and who you receive. So for me, if I get triggered by someone, if someone says something negative to me, and I feel my defenses come up, my wall of China, I like to call it, if I find myself putting up a shield, I know that in that moment, I'm being afforded an opportunity to program my field. And what do I want this to be for me? Okay? So if I get triggered now, I'm always so grateful, because that person is the very catalyst I need to go into my field and sweep away whatever needs to be gone. Whatever traces I have that are still in my body that don't belong there anymore, or that I'm ready to uninstall. All right. So everything that you have in your body is like spiritual software, and we're constantly updating that software, updating that software, updating that software. That's what we do. And we have to, whenever we update our program, well, your phone has to reboot sometimes, meaning that you may have your dark night of the soul. You may feel sad at times. You may feel melancholic. You might feel like, why isn't the love that I know is out there why hasn't it arrived yet? So there's all these things that can happen when you're getting an upgrade. And one of those things is feeling sad or feeling lonely, but it's all about how you view it. If you see it as something wonderful that's happening to you, like you're updating your system, then the energies that are incoming are going to be what you decide them to be. So when Mother Earth shakes, okay, we can set an intention in that moment. It doesn't matter if it's artificial. That's all part of the holographic reality. So if someone believes that it's an artificial earthquake and they disregard it, they may not be receiving an upgrade that they need. Because to me, even when I sneeze, I know this is going to sound a little outlandish, but even when I sneeze, I I die for a second. Like I'm actually able to send myself back to 0 point, and then I come back as a new person. And I do this when I meditate too. And I feel it, like everything stops. Every single thing comes to a halt. And I'm not here anymore. I'm where I was before I incarnated. I'm back at 0 point. So I know that sounded like a weird example, but I think it's a perfect example. What do you want your sneeze to mean? What do you want the person that left you romantically to mean? And if you shift your beliefs around that, then you're going to receive all these different upgrades within your DNA hardware, which is your physicality, and then new software will be installed. So this ties in pretty well, I have to say, with the next thing I want to touch upon, which is that we have an incredible opportunity right now to enhance our psychic abilities, to really tune ourselves to the subtle realms. By subtle realms, I mean getting in tune with thoughts that are contained within thoughts, that are contained within thoughts, really getting in tune with those nuances, okay? So a great exercise to apply right now is whenever someone calls you, I do this because I'm pretty no shame in my game, and I do it with love. When someone calls me that I haven't heard from in a while, I will ask them, what inspired you to reach out to me today? What inspired you? Because for me, it's important to look at everything like Inspector Gadget and analyze the 7 layers of every cake. So I want to know, did this person reach out to me because they were bored? Did they reach out to me because they were sad? What is their vibrational offering? If they say, never mind, I forget it, forget that I reached out, well, you're obviously not ready to vibrationally hang, because there's no shame here. We're transparent, and I'm all about going deep. And I don't have to go deep. I just want to know that we can go there. That's all. That's how I've been my entire life. I don't need to go deep. I want to play video games. I want to have fun. I want to do cartwheels. I want to jump. I want to do flips. I want to have a great old time in life. But I want to know that you have the ability to go there. So if you quickly recede, like a hairline, like if you quickly recede and you're like, oh, never mind, and they take offense to that, it means they're not ready for me. Not even close. Okay? If they give me an answer like, oh, I've been suffering and you write such inspirational quotes and I'm still not interested. I want to know that someone is reaching out to me because they want to connect. And the universe wants us to have equivalent exchange in life when it comes to our vibrational offerings. Because if that person or me, because I've been there before, where I'm bored and I'll reach out to someone because I need some excitement. No. The way that I've been able to really elevate at a fast rate is because I always point myself back inside. I will dissect the energy. I will ask myself, why am I wanting to reach out to this person? Why am I texting them? And if I find that it's not kosher, my intention isn't pure, then I will not do it. I will go back inside, be willing to have that dark night of the soul, or to process out of my system whatever needs to be processed out. That's how I roll. And some people say, but what about needing support? There's nothing wrong with that. So I just want to be clear. The 9 are always showing me there's nothing wrong with anything. It doesn't matter. Everyone's ascending. And you get to do that on your own accord. If you want to take 11 years to get there, you can. If you want to be vigilant and you want to bring awareness to all things, then it can happen really rapidly. Well, there's always more and more and more. So the physical DNA reconfiguring itself, that takes time. But overall, your consciousness can elevate really quickly. So I've always been of the mindset where I'm going to process my own stuff. If it's coming from a place that's impure, where I'm needing from someone, give me, gimme, I'm not doing it. And I knew that I awakened to this in 2011. I knew I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to play that game, because all it does is it perpetuates, or I should say it prolongs the entire process. And from a quantum viewpoint, there's no such thing as time. So you can get there in no time. But the thing is, because we're in physicality, what we tend to do as humans is we get in these loops. We get into all these different loops, and it becomes a cycle of its own. And then you go through something, and then you're good. But then it happens again, and you call another friend, and then you're good for a week, and then you call them again, and then you're good for a week, rather than just like from the get-go, okay, I'm going to process this until it's no longer in my body. Because what's causing you to reach out to them is a program. It's just a program. Because deep down, you know that you know everything. Deep down, your soul is omniscient. Your soul is all-knowing. But obviously, we have to be patient with ourselves, and there's nothing wrong if you reach out to a friend. Just know that. Just know that. There's nothing wrong with it. But what I would suggest is take time to try to crack the code on your own. And then, if you're not able to, that's okay. Then you can call your friend. But I think our default is that we always call friends because we've gotten too codependent. And we're always needing. So I want to reach out to someone because I'm vibrating high, and then hopefully they're vibrating high and we're a match, and then we can have a wonderful, wonderful exchange. And it can be a meaningful experience. So the 9, we're saying that right now is a time to really get in tune, to tap into what your motivation is behind reaching out to someone, or what their motivation is for reaching out to you. Okay? And there's nothing wrong with saying what inspired you to reach out today. If they give you a shallow, surfacey answer, you may want to second question it. I'm not sure I want to go there. Because your psychic antenna picks up on every event ahead of time. It can foresee everything. So if you're like, I don't know, that answer wasn't really on point, or I'm still reaching out to them because I'm feeling lonely, just know that you're probably not going to have a good time. In other words, your light body is telling you, hey, this meeting is not going to feed your soul. It's not going to enrich your experience. So you may want to think about it twice. Okay? So by getting in tune with the subtleties of what you're feeling or what you're picking up on intuitively, you'll further augment your psychic awareness. The less programs you have in you, the more psychic you become. So we can rid ourselves of these programs by meditating every day, by breathing love and breathing light and breathing consciousness into every corner of your field. That might be a darker corner that hasn't been tended to. Also by speaking your truth and only doing things that harmonize with your soul. And just living your truth all the time. And doing so from a compassionate place. In other words, it's not personal, it's just vibrational. That's one of my quotes. It's nothing personal, it's just vibrational. So before you pick up your phone or you send a text message, ask yourself, what does every layer represent? Okay, there's one layer that genuinely misses this person, but then there's another layer that's kind of unhappy or sad or lonely, and maybe I should kind of deal with that before I reach out to them. And then what you'll find is that you don't want to reach out to them once you've filled in that grid. It's like grid work, okay? Yes. So the other message I wanted to share is I feel like so many of us are on the cusp of real love, of that one twin flame or that amazing soulmate that's going to be coming in and changing your life around. Because every time I step out, and I feel like I'm pretty much the same across the board. Like I don't really fluctuate. I tend to be pretty, how can I say this? I tend to be pretty stable when it comes to my energy. So when I go out, like this past week when I've gone out, I'm tuning into the subconscious field and I'll observe people. And I feel like everyone is like reaching for something. It's like they're reaching for love, or they're testing to see if they're attracted to you, or you might be testing to see if you're attracted to them. And the message I got around that was that people are so close to a breakthrough, like a massive breakthrough, which is going to manifest as a true lover or this incredible love or twin flame dynamic. They're so close, but because that energy is unknown to them, or what's about to happen is unknown to them, because they're still operating linearly, they're still kind of reaching for that person who might be sitting next to them. And it's like, don't do that. Just be. Just allow yourself to be. And if your universe wants to bring that to you, if it wants to ship it to your house, it will be shipped. All right? It's going to be shipped. You don't have to do much, but be yourself. And what happens to us is we tend to get too externally focused, and then we're easily distracted by what's around us. Instead of going, okay, I'm going to shift my focus inwardly on my heart and not concern myself with all these temptations and distractions that are all around me. And right now, I feel like a lot of people are having sexual fever, like they're horny, or so some people might be self-pleasuring, which there's nothing wrong with self-pleasuring, but again, program your field. Okay? Imagine that you're making love to this person that's going to be entering, but don't get caught in the trap of picking up your phone and reaching out to people. Or you might be, walking down the street and then you see someone who's somewhat attractive, but then you're constantly focused on them. That's an external focus. You want to bring that back inside. So that was the other message I got, is there's a sexual energy in the air, or a longing for love. And from my own personal journey, I can say that anytime I found myself reaching for something, I was like 2 seconds away, or, on the brink of a major change in my life. But because my ego didn't know what it was looking for those external stimuli. And we don't want to do that. We want to stay focused on the heart. We want to stay focused on the heart and have the knowingness that the universe will deliver what's meant for you in the perfect time, in divine time. So anytime you're about to up-level and reach a new layer of consciousness, there will be temptations, because they're not wanting you to get to that level. And we don't want to delegate a blame game, but they are just imprints that are held within the Akashic record. They're thought forms that you've been friends with for a long time. So in that previous layer or paradigm, you associated yourself with all these different frequencies. Those frequencies are like ingredients in a soup. They have their own mind, they have their own intelligence. So when someone is playing the victim, they're going to have a lot of friends who are victims, because they're all part of that paradigm of victimhood. They're frequencies that are roaming around within that paradigm. And then when that person stops playing the victim, well, all those frequencies are going to start to bombard them and attack them, because they're freeing themselves from that paradigm. They're exiting that paradigm. So every frequency that became reliant upon that person is going to feel threatened by them leaving. Does that make sense? So I know I'm going on a few tangents here, but it's necessary. So, did you guys hear that? Necessary. It's not Clyde. It's just that I've been working with him for a while, so I have that little twang in my voice. So, what was I saying? Yes, many of you are on the brink of physical change. So you might be meeting the love of your life really soon, but bring awareness to this part of you that's easily distracted or tempted into going outside. You don't want to do that. You don't want to visit with external forces. All right? You want to rendezvous with your higher self. Rendezvous with your higher self and know that that frequency, once it creates enough amplitude, will bring to you everything that you need and you desire. It's all about amplitude. All right? Your magnetic resonance is the amplitude. You're building a momentum. And all of this is an inside job. You can work with your imagination. Within meditation, you can work with your emotions, but don't concern yourself with what's out there. So I have so much more to share, but I'm already at 31 minutes. So trying to think if there's anything else. I think I'm going to leave it here because there's probably lots to process. And I'll come back soon and then do a video about this spiral that I've been seeing clairvoyantly. I'll do that in another video. There is one more thing I'd like to broach. So the reason I've been offline is because I had to go through my own death, if you will. I find that I don't feel them in my body anymore. I don't really feel them in my body, whereas I used to, because I had so many programs in me. So you used to have to feel the pain because that's how you burned those programs off. That's how you eradicated your system of these different programs. And now I just rejoice. It doesn't feel like death anymore. It feels more like rebirth. And all I have to do is sit it out and then wait for the inspiration to strike me again. The information that was coming in is do not respond to negative comments, because I've played that game as well. And what I was being shown is that if someone has a desire to be seen, to be validated, to be acknowledged, but they go about it in a hateful way, that desire is still going to be answered to by the universe, because law of attraction doesn't care if you're a good person, bad person. If you have a desire, if you have a strong energy that is dominant within your field, that's going to be replied to by the universe. So if someone is negatively commenting on your social media or anything in your life, maybe someone who's in your immediate circle or maybe a family member, it looks like a dark ball. It's like a ball that is filled with desire, but the desire is negative. It's, I want to be seen. I want to trigger you. I want to get under your skin. So, of course, because law of attraction will pull whoever's a match to that. In other words, it might be you, it might be me, right? We can get baited into that, into playing that game. And it doesn't matter if you bring love into the fold or if you bring neutrality, because it wasn't founded on stable legs from the get-go, meaning it was coming from an unstable emotion of hostility or hate or wanting to troll or wanting to project their own negativity on you, because that isn't built on stable legs, you're just going to add to that ball of darkness. That's all you're doing. And I've put this to the test. People sometimes say to me, like, do you get triggered? Do you get, for me, I'm like a scientist. Everything I do is just to study the universe. So even when you guys have seen me throw pearls from the clouds, I'm just studying, I'm gathering data. That's one of the ways I gather data. If humanity ceased to exist today and I was the last man on the planet, I would still be able to gather this data because I can meditate and induce myself into a trance. So it's just one of the ways I'm able to collect data from the universe, from people's behaviors, from patterns, from Akashic records. So I never really do this. How can I say this? I like to throw pearls and see what happens, right? But what my guides have been saying is, Phil, we really need you to give up or throw in the towel when it comes to responding to negative comments. Even if you're doing it to educate the rest of the audience, that's okay. We don't need you to do that anymore because it's a ball of darkness that just wants to be responded to by you. And because law of attraction has no morality, that person is always going to be responded to. That's how it works. If you have a strong desire to be loved, that will happen. But then you have to implement patience, right? You have to exercise patience. Where we kind of go awry is we don't exercise patience. So every desire is a match to another frequency that's already in the hologram, in the collective hologram. But if you respond to negativity, usually it's only going to fan the flames. And if you've been responding to negative comments for a while, then you're encouraged to shift that pattern and to starve that for like about a week until it dies out. We always want to shift patterns up, always. You have to keep shifting up patterns. The second that you get complacent in a pattern, there's not much expansion that can take place because you're not creating new pathways or new avenues within your energy field to be led to new destinations, to be led to new star systems, to be led to new epiphanies, to be led to new aha moments. So you always want to shift patterning up. I do this too. I'll go online and then I'll go offline. And I'll study myself when I'm going offline. How do I feel? How do I feel? And I integrate new energies. Because for me, it's always been about my journey with my higher self. I want to be the best person I can be. I want to amount to the highest octaves of consciousness. And sometimes that means you can't be there for people. But that's important. You always have to put yourself first. Because there are different frequencies that will tug at you. They're going to kind of pull your t-shirt. Hey, why hasn't Phil released a video in a few days? You know, and I'm aware of all these energies. So I will usually do the opposite of that because then I know I've been feeding into this pattern too long and it's time to shift up the pattern. This is why I'll do webinars sometimes. This is why I'll do YouTube sometimes. This is why I'll do Instagram sometimes. Because I like to bounce around. I like to bebop around. And I think that's really important to introduce new energies and to promote ourselves. And to regenerate ourselves and to activate our dormant DNA. So that's my message today. I hope that helps you, and I'll be back with more. I'm also curious to see, just in the comments, if you can leave feedback as to what you thought of Clyde's voice. Did it make you feel a certain type of way? Let me know, because I'm still kind of teetering on whether or not I'm going to channel him officially or not. I just did this for you guys, just for fun. But I've been channeling him for like 4 straight days now, and I can do it really quick. I can tune to his frequency in like less than a second. So let me know what you think. Obviously, it's fun to diversify, but I already received so many downloads as is. So I'd love your feedback. And then if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe, because that will encourage me to do more videos. And there should be a button that's popping up here. And then like, comment, and thanks to everyone for showing up. I love you guys, and I'll see you in another version of The Now.